Can you talk kind of about what makes you stand out from other wineries in the area? I know we talked about it earlier with
I think we just like try and focus on a larger palette, you know, trying to really emphasize dry wines along with sweet.
Guys, wait until you see this place. This is Beachaven Winery. Take a look at their vineyard. Now, it is a smaller winery, but literally the best wine I have ever had. It is smooth. It is amazing. So if you can get out to Clarksville, Tennessee, check it out. All right, I'm just going to walk around here and give you guys an idea of what this place has. So meet Abby. Abby works here. She's been here for 4 years. She is extremely knowledgeable, and she has been fabulous. Which one is this?
The one that we can't pronounce. Or at least
Oh, that's the one we asked her to try. Say twice.
Yeah.
Let me go out.
For me. I'm just butchering it. But that's the
Gewürztraminer. I don't know. It's carbonated. I was not expecting that, even though it says it right on the bottle. What are you drinking, babe? Rhubarb? That's still the rhubarb?
No, this is strawberry.
Oh, that's a strawberry.
It doesn't taste like the artificial strawberries at all, like you would get in the store. This is real strawberries, and that's all that's in it. It's fabulous.
Really?
But if you like the strawberry flavor that's artificial, you probably won't like this because this is real strawberry.
So tell me about this Beachaven Jazz.
The Sparkling Jazz. So that is a staff favorite. So it is a carbonated wine. So whenever you're talking about like sparkling wines, you've got a couple different types. So you've got your carbonated wines, you've got champagnes, you've got proseccos. So there's a whole lot of different ways to actually carbonate a wine. So champagne is going to be a traditional French method. So there's a region in France called Champagne France, and so that is where champagne is originated from. And so it has to be made with certain grapes that are grown in that region. It's going to be like a Pinot Noir. I think they grow Chardonnay there. And so typically what that means is it's going to be a natural carbonation. And so they're essentially going to make the base wine, and then they're going to add it into a bottle. And they're essentially doing a second fermentation, but it's going to happen in the bottle. So they're adding in a yeast solution and a sugar component in there, and it's going to be capped. And they're essentially going to, what it's essentially going to do is it's going to carbonate and ferment in that bottle. And so whenever you're fermenting in like a stainless steel tank, the gas is released out of the top, so that carbon dioxide. But in the bottle, since it's got a cap over it, and it looks like, here, we'll grab one of those. Will you grab that jazz off there for me? So it's going to be a cap just like this. And so what that does, it doesn't allow it to breathe or anything. And so the gas cannot release. And so therefore it's building up in this bottle. And so then whenever you're ready to, they call it bottle it, you're putting a cork on the top. So you're going to pop this cap off. You're going to release all of the dead yeast from that fermentation. Then you're going to put a dosage solution in there, which is another solution of like sugar and I think a little bit of a yeast component. You're going to shoot that in there and you're going to cap it off with a cork. And so then it's going to start to bubble a little bit again. And so whenever you're popping a bottle of champagne, you're essentially letting all that carbon dioxide release. And so it's bubbling and carbonating itself. Whereas this wine, like the Sparkling Jazz, we make the base wine and then we're essentially taking a carbonator, kind of like you would carbonate a soda, and you're shooting carbon dioxide in there and then just capping it real quick. And so it is not a traditional French method. It's not naturally carbonated. It is kind of an artificial kind of carbonation in there. So you just call it sparkling wine. And so you could call this carbonated wine, whereas we have a traditional champagne method over there on our shelf called Sparkling Sunbelt. It is if you grab that bottle there for me. Yeah, you can grab that one. It's going to say at the bottom, method champenoise. I don't speak French. So, but that pretty much means that it is made in the traditional French method. So this one has actually been,
So that
carbonated. This is
sparkling also.
Yes, this is a sparkling, and it has been carbonated in the bottle. So, and that's why it has this cork up here in the metal cap.
Fresh.
And you can also see that the bottle is shaped a little bit different. This bottle is a little bit thicker, and it is shaped this way to hold more pressure.
So what are you getting?
What am I getting? What am I not getting? It's
Probably a better question.
If
A shorter
give
list.
me a couple minutes, I'll take y'all down to the Champagne Cellar where we actually do the sparkling wines.
Awesome.
Are you having fun yet, babe?
I like the seats. It like hugs you.
Oh yeah, I didn't
Great.
So, okay, so this is the Champagne Cellar, and so I was telling you guys about how you make traditional method champagne. And so whenever you're making traditional method champagne, it comes with a couple different steps. It's a little bit more of a hands-on process. Takes a bit longer. So you're not only making the base wine, but then whenever you bottle it into these bottles, then you're doing that second fermentation. And so in order to do the second fermentation, you add the yeast in there, and then you've got to let it ferment. You've got to let it sit for a while. And so that's what these bottles are doing over here. And so you can come over here and look. You see that there is a white kind of powder along the bottom. You'll see that? So that's the dead yeast. So that is the yeast that's sitting in there, and it's actually done fermenting, so it's fallen to the bottom. And there's pressure built up in there, and that's another reason why these bottles, they have the dip in the bottom, so that actually secures the bottle and makes it a little bit more sturdy to hold up against the pressure, because there's a lot of carbon dioxide in here right now. And so then the next step is, after it's done fermenting, they're going to take the bottle and they're going to put it on what we call railing racks. So this is a railing rack, and when they turn it upside down, all of the dead yeast is going to set to the head of the bottle. So y'all can kind of see in these right here.
Oh wow.
You see all that white right there? So that's the yeast settling into the bottle. So this is essentially a method of filtering. And so the longer it stays here on its upside down like this, the sediment is just going to continually float down to the bottom into the head of the bottle. And so what they have to do is they actually have to turn these bottles like 1/4 of an inch every couple days or every so often. And what that's going to do is, like I said, it's going to kind of filter it. It's just going to keep things kind of moving and rotating in there. That way it continues to settle. And so then once it's done, once they feel like all of the yeast has settled down here into the head of the bottle, then it's ready to be essentially disgorged and capped and labeled and put on the shelf. And so essentially what they'll do is they'll take the bottle and they have to freeze the head of the bottle. So if you have a bottle of warm champagne, whenever you pop that cork off, more of the it's going to explode more than if it was chilled. So the bubbles are going to be larger. It's just a little bit more of an explosion. Whereas if it's a chilled bottle, it's more condensed. And so they're essentially going to freeze the head of this bottle. That way it doesn't completely explode and just shoot everything out. And so what they're going to do is they're going to take the bottles of wine. We have a machine over here. Let's see, where is it at? So you see it's got all these little spots. The bottles of wine will go in there, and this essentially freezes the head of the bottle. It freezes that dead yeast in the head of the bottle. That way, whenever you disgorge it, it's all going to come out. And so over here, what they'll do is they'll essentially have this bottle of wine. They'll turn it upside down. This part right here is going to hook right there on that edge, but it's going to be upside down, because as soon as you tilt it up, there's a bubble that you're going to follow. As soon as you start to tilt the bottle and that bubble starts to go over that heap right there, you're going to pop that cork off, and all of the dead yeast is going to be shot out into the sink, and you're going to move it over here, and somebody is going to have a solution. It's called dosage. Like I said, that's that solution of a little bit of sugar and I think a little bit of citric acid in there. They're going to shoot that in there, and then they're immediately going to move the bottle over here, cork it, and then cap it.
Wow.
And so that way it's going to start building pressure again in that bottle. So that way whenever you take your metal cap off, you pop your cork, it's going to have some fuzz coming out, like some fizz coming out. Yeah.
Very
Sounds like
cool.
Mm-hmm. So it's a very hands-on process. This is actually a new machine that they got. So like I was saying over here, when we disgorged it, we did it by hand. This is actually a disgorging machine that they just invested in, because we're doing a lot more traditional champagne method wines here. And so Wilson decided to go ahead and invest in a disgorging machine. So essentially what this does is it'll pretty much disgorge it for us.
So it does that.
So
process.
it does that process over there, right here.
Right
So
there.
you essentially, this is where you're going to put the cap in, and you're going to pop it, and all that dead yeast is going to come out. Then you're going to move it over here, and this is where it's going to add in that dosage, that other solution. And you can move it right over here and cork it.
So
Nice.
cool.
So those right over there on the ground are some that have already been. And like I said, the one that y'all are drinking right now, that Sparkling Jazz, it does not go through this process at all. So it is a carbonated wine, meaning we are making that base wine, and then we're essentially going to carbonate it using a machine. And so just kind of like you would carbonate a soda or sparkling water, something like that. You're shooting that carbonation in there. So it has not gone through that second fermentation.
So cool. Thank you so much for showing us.
thank
Yeah,
you
no
very much.
problem.
Very
Well,
super
that's
cool.
it's definitely something that Wilson's trying to kind of bring up here at Beachaven is kind of a sparkling, um, series.
Mhm.
And so the winery itself was founded by his grandfather, who actually was really into champagne and like making champagne. That's kind of like I think the first product that he made.
Mhm.
I could be wrong on that, but I think that was like the first thing that he kind of got into. And so I think it's kind of cool that Wilson's trying to kind of bring that back because they used to
Yeah.
only do like a champagne every like 5 years. Now Wilson's trying to release one or multiple a year. So we have
Yeah.
that sparkling Sunbelt. We have our sparkling cuvee, which is going to be coming out later, probably in a couple months, maybe a little bit sooner. And he's just got some other things that he plays around with.
So, sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, not to put you on the spot, but can you talk kind of about what makes you stand out from other wineries in the area? I know we talked about it earlier with
I think we just like try and focus on a larger palette, trying to really emphasize dry wines along with sweet. We are open to all wine drinkers, whether they drink sweet wines, dry wines, sparkling wines, whatever they enjoy drinking, we are open to. We want to make a product that's going to pretty much fill everybody's want and need, everybody's palate. And luckily here in Clarksville, we just have a really wide variety, kind of a little bit of a melting pot of an area. We have a lot of people moving from California. We're a military town, and so we have a lot of people coming from all over the country, and we're also a college town, so we just have a lot of people moving into the area. So we have a wide variety of palettes here. So we have the opportunity to be able to create different products, dry wines, sweet wines, something that we're going to have a little bit of a market for, whereas
Right.
some other areas in the South kind of are more geared towards sweet wines and stuff like that, which is nothing wrong with that. I mean, I started drinking sweet wines, everybody's different,
Yeah.
everybody's got a different palate, so.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
So
of
it makes
course.
the world go round. Everybody's
Exactly.
Right.
If we all like the same thing, then it wouldn't be fun, right?
Right,
Right.
right.
So,
different. Exactly.
And this is, how far was our drive out of Nashville?
If we came right from Nashville, it'd been just under an hour.
Yeah, and worth it.
Oh, absolutely.
Worth it.
100%.
well, yeah, we want everybody to come and visit us. So we offered, we're open pretty much every day of the week. We're closed on Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, and I think New Year's Day. So, but we're open every other day. Our hours change during the season. So during the summertime, we're open until 7, I think, through October.
What's your top selling wine?
Golden Rose. That one.
Ah,
Yeah.
Mine, yes.
Steve's
Yeah,
favorite.
Golden Rose. It is a sweet red. It is made from a Concord grape. We grow part of those grapes right out front in our vineyard, but then we do buy the rest of the grapes that go into that wine. I believe they come from New York, and so it is blended between ours and another vineyards. But we make everything here, so Tennessee's just not known for growing a large variety, so we do have to end up buying from other growers from out of state a lot of times, or even other growers here in Tennessee. But we are shipped either the juice or the grape itself. Red grapes are going to come in actual fruit form, and we make everything here from pressing, crushing, fermenting, bottling, everything.
That's so awesome.
So does Wilson do like experimentation with, to try to make new wine
Oh yeah,
flavors?
he's
Is that
always
what he's
doing
doing
experiments, and so if you look at a lot of these over here, this rack in particular, you see a lot of writing on here, a lot of different colors going on. So this is kind of experiments. So pet knots, that is another way of making sparkling wine. I'm not gonna get into that because I know that my education on that's a little rocky, and I don't I don't want to mess up as far as that goes. But essentially, any wine that we make and actually have on the shelf in the bottle, he's going to make a sparkling wine out of it. So anything that's left over in the tank after bottling, he's going to take a little bit of it and he's going to make a pet knot out of it. And so by doing that, he can kind of get a feel of what that wine would taste like as a sparkling. So essentially, he doesn't have to go through all the exact same steps as a champagne method wine, but he can still make a sparkling. They're essentially a little bit more harsh. They're not as filtered as much, so a lot of it's going to end up having, so you would not go through the whole disgorging process with these, or like even freezing the head of the bottle a lot of times. You would chill it down, but then you would disgorge it. Like I said, you would pop it open, but then you would immediately drink it after that. So you wouldn't add another dosage or anything into it and put that cork on top of it. So it's going to be a little bit, it may have a little bit more of that dead yeast in there. I don't want to say dirty because it's not a dirty wine, but it's just a little bit more rough. As far as it's not going to be as clean.
So it
or
has
as clear.
sediment? What do you call
Yeah,
it?
so
Sediment?
that dead yeast is going to kind of reside in there whenever you're drinking it. Now, if you disgorge it really good, you're going to try and get as much of that dead yeast out as you can. But sometimes you leave a little bit in there, or
It's
like
not
flip it
perfect.
over. You flip it over a little bit too fast during the disgorging process, and so a little bit of that is going to sink back down to the bottom of the bottle. They're still really good. You just don't drink the last little bit, but they're a little bit have a little bit more texture to them. That's a good way of saying it instead of dirty. A little bit more of a texture to it. But yeah, so this is kind of his experiments. Same thing with just like regular wines. He has a palette usually with a bunch of different things on it that he kind of experiments with. So he's always trying to introduce something new to our menu.
What got him into this wine?
Well, his grandfather founded the place, so he grew.
So he just grew up.
Yeah,
grew
so
up with
the
it.
winery was founded and licensed in 1986. They opened the doors, I think, right in 1987, but they started building the building and everything in 1986. So it was founded by a local judge. His name was William O. Beach. He got into wine as a hobby in the early 70s, just kind of making it at home. And then he decided he wanted to open up a winery, and so he partnered with his son-in-law, Ed Cook. And so they were business partners. They bought the property, built the building and everything. And like I said, in 1986, I think is when they actually broke ground. 1987, I think, is when they poured their first glass of wine. But we always say we were founded in 1986 because that's kind of when everything kind of started. But like I said, he kind of had his own home winery going on. So he actually had, entered some of his home wines into different competitions and stuff like that. So he was already making kind of a product and kind of like had a name for himself. But in Tennessee, you just weren't legally allowed to have a commercial winery yet. And so that didn't happen, I think, until around the 80s, whenever that became legalized. And so we're one of the first, I think, like 10 or 15 that were licensed in the state. So we're one of the oldest here in Tennessee. But then shortly after the winery opened, Judge Beach passed away in 1991. And so his daughter, Louisa, took over. So he was married to Ed. And so they co-ran it for almost a little over 20 or 30 years, and they've just recently handed it over to their son, Wilson. So Wilson, he's running the place now with his wife, Becca, but Wilson, he's kind of worked in wine his whole entire life. So growing up here, then after college, he moved to Michigan and worked at a couple different wineries up there. Actually moved over to New Zealand, I think, for a couple of years.
Nice.
And worked at a couple wineries there, moved back to Michigan, and then within the past 5 years, they moved back here. So I've pretty much only worked for Becca and Wilson because I've been here for almost 4 years, and I think they've been back for a little over 4.
So it's like a passion.
Yeah.
Now, would you say it's your passion? Because you are very knowledgeable.
I mean,
in all this.
I guess so. I'm very into wine, but I am not like going to school or studying anything. I have
Yeah.
not got my sommelier's license or anything. I'm one of the managers here, so I just, love working for them. I have tried to expand my knowledge of wine a little bit. I'm still a little rocky on some things. Like I said, I kind of know about our product, but as far as wine in general, I'm still, I guess, an amateur at most.
No way. We are amateurs.
Well, put me up against somebody who actually makes wine or a sommelier, and I'm an amateur for sure. So
You see both of us
if somebody's watching this who knows more than me, they'll probably call me out. Wilson will probably be like, "You were wrong about some of that kind of stuff," but.
She's amazing.
I know a general amount, and like I said, some of my stuff might not be completely accurate. I'm not a chemist. I'm not, I don't know the verbiage exactly sometimes, or the technical ways to say things, but I do really enjoy wine.
It's obvious.
Yeah, and I'm sure he's very blessed to have you as an employee.
I do really enjoy it, and I'm trying to expand my knowledge. I do get a little nervous sometimes, even though I have a communications and master's degree in communications. I still get a little nervous sometimes being, videoed or tested or
on the
stuff
spotlight.
Like yeah, on the spot.
It's
yeah.
all good. It's
So-
all good.
So like I said,
You're doing awesome.
Yeah, and that's one of the things Wilson is really into. He wants us to be able to educate customers coming in, be able to answer the questions that they ask, and so we generally have. Sorry, I think I keep moving away from.
No, it's okay. I just
He tries to do like monthly wine education. So I was telling you guys earlier about Kelly Barnes. She used to be one of the winemakers here. So she is actually coming back and doing some of our wine education. So she comes. We have a staff meeting about every month, and she kind of focuses on a different type of wine. So the last one that we had was actually sparkling wine. So she kind of covered the different ways to make sparkling wine. Different countries and regions have different names for sparkling wine. I remembered it then, but I am not able to talk about every little specific thing now because I like I said, we had one class over it. So like you know, when you're in school, you pick up on something stick, but then some don't. So it's still something I need to kind of like look a little bit more into. But she's done like red wines, white wines, just general wine knowledge and different things like that. So
very cool.
so yeah, she wants to definitely teach everybody the basics, but then kind of specify on a little bit more things. That way we're educated about what we're making here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's fabulous when you're tasting the wines and you can tell us very specific details about how that specific wine is made, what grape it's from. I'm a mechanical engineer. I like details.
Oh yeah.
So.
Well, and that's one thing that we always offer is like the ability to taste at the bar and like have a staff member kind of walk you through it. Now, whenever you come on a weekday, like on a Monday through Thursday, you're going to get that kind of one-on-one treatment. Now, if you come on a weekend, those are kind of our busiest times. A lot of times, it's a little bit more fast-moving. Like we're pouring you something, we're going over to the next person and pouring theirs. Like so, it's not as like one-on-one. So if somebody is kind of wanting that really like one-on-one experience, like being able to kind of hear about exactly what we're doing here and about every single wine, definitely come Monday through Friday, or not Friday. Monday
Thank
through
God
Thursday.
we didn't come Saturday.
Yeah, Monday through Thursday is the time.
Or we can come Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Yeah. You could come to all of
I like how he thinks.
but we always, on the weekends, we offer live music. So May through October, we offer live music Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So every single weekend. And we have like a food truck that comes to those. We have like it's usually solo artists and stuff outside. And you can do wine flights. And that's what most people do is they get their tasting to go outside or their wine flight to go outside, bottles, glasses of wine. We have the wine slushies and stuff like that. So like on the weekends, it's a little bit more of like a coming with a group and leisure experience, like going outside. Now, if you wanted that kind of one-on-one experience, definitely come Monday through Thursday. Because on the weekends, like we're running around like crazy, trying to keep up with the crowd. So, because sometimes we'll have a couple hundred people and stuff out here, and we have somewhat of a limited staff, I guess. I mean, it's not like we're a big corporate place here. So,
And because a lot of people probably find you from traveling from out of town, you guys ship.
Yes, we do. We ship to most states. We go through a company called Vino Shipper, and so they kind of hold the license for us to be able to ship to the majority of these places. There are like a handful of states that we can't ship to, one of which is Alabama. For a long time we couldn't ship to Kentucky, but actually that has opened up now, so we can now ship to Kentucky, which is cool. But we can ship all the way to Hawaii, or California.
And what's your website?
It's beachavenwinery.com. So just www.beachavenwinery.com. There's only one H in Beachaven, so it's like Beach. So that was the last name of the founder, Judge Beach, and then Haven.
And you have a Facebook page?
Yes. Again,
Instagram?
Beachaven Vineyards and Winery is what we are on there. Also, we're on Instagram. That's where you're going to get kind of your most frequent updates as far as what we're offering, live music. If we have any kind of specials on wine, we do have our website, but it is not updated as much as social media. Social media is just a little bit more easy to post a story or kind of what's going on specifically that day.
Yeah.
Whereas a website, it's going to be more kind of like our long-term information.
Right.
Yep.
So, just wanted to add that, so if you are, in the area from California or the West Coast and you like dry wine, this is the place to go. This is the place to go for your dry wine. It is fantastic. It is very smooth. It is similar to what you would find in California. It is awesome.
No, definitely. We appreciate that compliment too. So, especially coming from somebody who grew up in California wine. So, yeah, we're proud of our product, and we love people to come and try it. And if you don't like it, that's fine. Everybody's palate's different. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All I can say is, thank goodness you shipped to Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
All right.
We do ship to Pennsylvania. Yes.
Thank you.
of a staple here in Clarksville too.
And what kind of stuff do you have in your
So
bakery?
artisan European, so breads, pastries, regular food, so we have like the German foods, more of the artisan foods, lots of vegetarian, vegan,
Nice.
gluten-free, so we really have a huge variety of just about anything that anyone can dream of. So yeah, so it's a little bit of like stepping back in time, and stepping into Europe when you can't go to Europe.
Yeah.
So,